Hi y'all, Dwayne here. Agnes has asked me to cook lasagna tonight for dinner, so I'm going to start putting that together now and try to record as much as I can to give you an idea of how I make my lasagna. A lot of many ways to make lasagna. I'm sure you have your own favorite recipe that you use, and if you see something in here that I could make mine better by adding a certain spice that maybe I left out that you use, let me know. I'd like to always improve what we're cooking. Interesting dish, lasagna. It was dates back to the Middle Ages in Naples, Italy. That's when it was first recorded, anyway, from what I understand, in a book called Liber de Coquina, I believe is the way you pronounce that, the book of cookery. But prior to that, there is some origins out to ancient Greece that would have been put in the era of 4 BC, I guess, where they had a little variation of noodles and mixed in with some sauce, and they call it lasagna, I believe is the way they pronounce that. You want to chop the onions up very fine. You want to mince them, as it's called. You don't want to leave chunks in there if you can help it. Obviously, it's kind of hard not to, but you don't want to leave it whole like you would, whole pieces like you would if you were making spaghetti sauce or any other kind of dish, because you want the onions to melt in the sauce as it sautés itself together with the meat. Crush your garlic. Don't slice it, dice it. Crush it so it'll dissolve in your sauce as the sauce cooks. So from here we'll go put some olive oil in this pan. We'll start sauteing our onions and our garlic, and then we'll add some meat. Let that heat up a little bit. We'll put the onions and the garlic in there, and after that sautés a little bit, the onions get a little clear, then we'll put the meat, the Italian sausage, and I like to use sweet Italian sausage. You can certainly use hot or mild or any other kind of sausage, but I like to use Italian sausage that is sweet because it gives a sweeter flavor to the lasagna. Also, you use a pound of ground beef. You can use pork. Some people use pork instead of ground beef, but I just happen to have ground beef, so that's what I'm going to use. So let's get this thing going here in the pot and see what happens and go from there. Get all those onions in there and it'll start smelling real good. Too bad we don't have smell of aroma in here where you can smell what we're cooking, because when onions and garlic starts cooking together, it is so good. I'm sure many of you know if you cook lasagna or any other type of Italian dish, or any dish for that matter, that requires you to have onions and garlic together. So let's just let that heat a little bit and make the onions a little clear, and then we'll add the meat. Okay, these onions and garlic are cooking down a little bit, starting to get a little bit clear. Not quite there yet, but enough where I think we can go ahead and add the meat and let it start cooking together. See how the onions are starting to become a little more clearer, and that means they're getting soft. They're probably still a little bit hard, but they're softening up, and as the onions cook with the sauces and the meat, it'll soften up even more and kind of melt, if you will, and give a nice onion flavor. Okay, we'll start with the Italian sausage. Sweet Italian sausage, I like that. But as I said earlier, you can use whatever Italian sausage you like. Hot, mild, extra hot, whatever. Throw that in there with that for a little bit. And we'll use a pound of ground beef. And as I said, you can also use pork. Some people like to use pork instead of ground beef, but for my purposes, I will use ground beef. That's a pound of each. A pound of ground beef and a pound of Italian sausage. Start breaking that up, mixing it in with the onions that are already a little bit warm. Just give it a little bit of time and it'll brown itself up, and when it browns itself up, then we'll start putting in the sauce, the tomatoes, tomato sauce, tomato paste, and the spices, and this will simmer for a while. In the meantime, we're also getting our pot ready, getting the water boiled to start cooking the lasagna noodles. Use about 12 of these is what I use, and we'll get those things going here in a minute as well. While we're waiting for the meats to cook with the onions and the garlic, we're going to chop up some Italian parsley. We'll add the parsley to the meat and the sauces when we put that together a little bit. About 4 tablespoons of parsley, and also use some when we mix the ricotta cheese as one of the layers for the lasagna. When we mix the ricotta cheese with the egg and do that a little bit. We'll chop up about, I don't know, we'll kind of guess it, but chop up as much as I can. Try to make it as fine as I can, so measure it out. I don't take time to take it off of the stem. Just like when I do Mexican food, I don't take the leaves of the cilantro off the stem. I just dice it all together. I don't know why. No, I do know why, because I'm lazy. Don't want to mess with it. Or it could come from other reasons. Who knows? Other things that I used to pull leaves from stems on in my youth.
What kind of leaves is that?
I'm sorry?
What kind of leaves is that?
I don't know.
Is it organic?
Sometimes. Depends on where it grew. Oh, I read that. I didn't say. Didn't mean to say I did it. I meant to say I read that. Sorry, my mistake. Okay, these all chopped up real nice and neat. Looks like I could use a little bit more. Yeah, pull some of these leaves off. No stems, no seeds that you don't need. Anyway, don't want to get too many stems in there.
Do you know who's looking forward to eat that lasagna?
Dude, you?
And Josie.
Oh, Josie? Oh, good. I'm glad she is.
You know how she loves
We're going
lasagna.
to Austin tomorrow to spend the weekend with Agnes's former employer and the 3 kids that she kept since birth, pretty much.
6.5 years.
Kiki, and 6.5 years. Kiki and Josie and John. So we're going to take the lasagna up to Austin, and we'll have it tomorrow night with them as well. Could be an interesting time. She just can't stay away from those kids. I don't know what she's going to do when she moves to the Philippines.
I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, well, besides that. Okay, you got your parsley chopped up nice and neat. Looks like pretty fine. Yeah, I may chop it a little bit more before I finish, but it's going to do for now because I need to check on the meat and see how it's doing. All right, there you go. Getting brown. Getting brown. Got to mix in the sausage and the ground beef. So it's doing okay. Just cook it a little slow. It'll work. So we'll go ahead and cook the lasagna noodles. We got a good boiling, roaring boil going here. So let's put 12 of these in here and let these start cooking, because these need to cool a little bit after you cook them. We're not going to use them anytime soon. It's going to take some time, but we want to go ahead and get them done so they can cool off, so I can handle them when we start doing the layering of the lasagna noodles, cheeses, and meat and sauce. So other than that, we're just kind of waiting for the meat to cook so we can start adding the spices. Okay, it looks like the meat's pretty brown. It'll get a little more browner as it cooks, but it's enough to drain some of that fat off of it. Even though I did use 90-10 ground beef, you still had some fat in the sausage, so we need to kind of drain that off a little bit anyway. Leave some in there because it does make a good flavor. Because a lot of that flavor is kind of from the onions and the garlic together too. So let's just kind of take a little bit of that liquid out of there. Well, that'll do it. Leave a little bit in there for flavor. And let's start putting together our sauce. Okay, start with 28 ounces of crushed Roma tomatoes. And you want to add 2 cans of tomato sauce. These look like 8-ounce cans. Two cans of 6-ounce, 6.5-ounce, I believe they are, tomato paste. Whoop. Don't jump out. It's be hot in there. Another can here. Okay, get those sauces in there, get those mixed up a little bit before we start adding some seasoning. Stir it up, get it all mixed down good. Let that tomato paste start melting a little bit. Mixing in with the sauce and the onions and garlic and meat. Okay, that'll work. Yep, not quite. Need to turn it over a little bit. So you got to stir it real good. Make sure that your meat is completely mixed in with the sauce. If not, it'll take a while for it to cook. And you want your meat to have that flavor of what the sauce is. Okay, good deal. Let's check on this a little bit and see how we're doing here. Looks like those are just about done. Been boiling about 8 minutes. Let me look at it and see how it feels. Well, a couple more minutes. That'll be ready. Keep it warm there. Okay, we're going to start with 2 tablespoons of sugar. Some people like more sugar. Put in how much of one you want, but I usually use about 2 good heaping tablespoons of sugar. That kind of takes the sting, the tart out of the tomato sauce. Heaping. Yeah, a little bit more.
We like it sweet.
I do, because I'm sweet.
You are sweet.
Yes. A couple of teaspoons, let me see, let's see, 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning. You can make your own Italian seasoning, but I use whatever you can find in the store. It seems to be easier because after you make the seasoning, it kind of sits and you don't use it again. So you've got a seasoning that is just going to kind of go bad on you after a while. Is that a teaspoon? And it looks like a teaspoon. No, that's a half teaspoon. I know there's one on here because I used it the other day. There it is, 1 teaspoon. Heaping teaspoon of Italian seasoning. 2. One teaspoon of dried basil. Start stirring that up real good. I like to use fennel seed in my lasagna sauce. Fennel seed is it's a hard seed. You bite into it, it tastes like licorice, real sweet flavor. I like to use it in my sauce because it melts down into a sweet taste for your sauce. You don't taste the licorice, you just taste a sweet flavor and gives it a different aroma. But Agnes doesn't like fennel seed, so I don't use fennel seed. But some of you may, and so you're probably thinking, if you do, why is it putting fennel seed in there? I've got to have fennel seed on lasagna. Well, that's why. Stir that up real good a little bit. Let's put about 4 tablespoons of parsley in that. One, 2, 3. 4, and stir that up good. Let that start mixing together, and that parsley will blend in with the sauce, give it kind of a parsley flavor. I guess, I don't know, does something, I'm sure. Everybody puts parsley in their spaghetti sauce and lasagna sauce or any other type of Italian sauce, so I don't know what it does, but I don't know. Okay, so that's all nice and mixed, as you can see. And what we're going to do now is put a lid on it Agnes tells me to do quite often. So we're going to put the lid on it, and we're going to simmer this for about an hour and a half. So you're going to think, my God, that's a long time to cook a spaghetti sauce or a lasagna sauce. But you simmer, the longer you simmer, the better flavor it's going to be, because it gives more time for the meat and the sauces to mix in with each other, and all for the seasonings to mix in with the sauce, and give it a much better flavor if you try to rush it and knock it out within 30 minutes or so. But it's going to take about an hour and a half for it to simmer, and in the meantime we'll look at our lasagna noodles, see how they're doing. Looks like they're doing fine. How y'all doing in there? Hot, isn't it? Yeah, sure is hot. I bet it is. Okay, I think those look pretty well done. We'll drain that. We're going to put them out on a sheet. Okay, now here comes the fun part. Handling them a little bit. So what I want to do now is take the lasagna noodles and put them on a cookie sheet so they'll stay flat. And to do that, you want to spray your cookie sheet with some vegetable oil, like that. And now I want to take each individual piece and start laying it out flat so they will stay flat. So when I start to put them together to make the layer in the lasagna baked dish. Okay. Won't take long to do. Kind of lay them out like that. They've drained quite well. So we're good. We're good to go on that. It'll take a while for these to cool off, so by the time the spaghetti sauce is ready in an hour and a half, these will be cooled and much easier to handle. Yeah. So they can be layered in the lasagna dish. Okay? That's all for now. We'll come back after the sauce is ready, and we'll start layering it, and putting it into the oven. Okay, we're back. The sauce has been cooking, simmering for about an hour and a half now, and it looks like it's going to be as done as it's ever going to be. See how nice and thick that is? It's going to make a real nice base to cover the noodles and have the cheese melt inside of it and make a real tasty and very thick layered lasagna. So I got the oven heating to 375. Not quite there yet, but it will be shortly. And we can go ahead and start putting together our lasagna, start layering it and putting things on top. So we'll start with ricotta cheese, 16 ounces. This will be one of the layers, the ricotta cheese. Put an egg in that. Oh. And parsley. A couple of tablespoons parsley. That's close enough. Looks like it could be a little bit less, a little bit more. I don't know. I want to get that egg and parsley mixed in good with the ricotta cheese, because that's going to be one of your layers. Take a few minutes to get it all in good. Make sure that yolk is beaten up real good and mixed in with the white. You want to make sure that when you do this, take your ricotta cheese out of the fridge and let it get room temperature. It's a lot easier to mix when it's room temperature than it is when it's cold. So now you've got a kind of a nice liquidy ricotta cheese mix that you can splash on like a icing on a cake and spread it out. Okay, I think that's going to do that. Okay, I'm going over here and we're going to start putting the layer. First layer is going to be their lasagna sauce. Just cover the bottom of the, this is a 9.5 by 13.5 inch pan and about 2.5 inches tall, and that makes it for handling a real thick lasagna. A lot of your Pyrex dishes come by 9 by 13 and maybe 1.5 inches tall. So it's nice to have a lasagna dish when you make lasagna, so you can stack it as high as you want and make those portions thick. Smells good. Hope it's good as it smells. If not, then I waste a lot of time, haven't I? Okay, get that in there, let that settle a little bit. Then start layering your lasagna noodles. Nice and easy. Never can get it to come out right, but it'll work. So you pretty much have all of your sauce that's on the bottom as your first layer covered. And you want to add about half of your ricotta cheese as your next layer. And this is where I really mess up, because I don't have all the utensils here that I usually would use. So we shipped a lot of things to the Philippines already, and it'd be nice to have an icing spreader that's about this long and it's kind of indented where you can lay it flat. So we'll just have to do this the best I can with this big spatula, and just kind of get a good layer of ricotta cheese here, and be a thin layer, but all the same, it'll be a layer. This is I don't have a nice soft touch like maybe Agnes would. I probably should have had her do this, because she has a much nicer soft touch than I have.
You're doing good
when it comes to these things. So anyway, we will get there. It'll just take some time. Looks like the oven's up to 375 now, ready to receive the lasagna. Yeah. Okay, there you go. That's about as good as it's going to get. It's layered pretty well. I've got it pretty much all of the noodles covered, which is what you want to do, because you want to, when you bite into this, into the lasagna, you're going to taste that ricotta cheese every time you take a bite. That's why it's so important that you layer this evenly on the noodles, so it's always there. Next, you want to add some, what do I want to do next? Parmesan, not Parmesan, some mozzarella cheese on top of that. Is that right? Yeah. I use shredded mozzarella cheese in the middle, because it seems to melt better. And on the top, when I top this off, before I bake it, I'll use some sliced mozzarella for the top to make it a kind of a decorative look. Kind of get that all mixed in there good. Can't get enough cheese. I mean, I think usually a lot of recipes call for maybe 3/4 of a pound of cheese. I probably go a little heavy on that. I probably go 1.5 pounds. I don't know. I really don't measure it. I just kind of pour it on, because I like cheese. Okay. Get the old dipper going here. Sometimes I have a little bit of sauce left over, and I can pour it over a bowl of spaghetti the next day. But I don't know if I'm going to have that this time. Looks like I'm going to be using it all. We'll see.
You might as well use it all.
Huh?
Might as well use
Oh
it
yes,
all.
that's when I will be home for sure. For sure. See how that mixes in? You can see the ricotta cheese under the hot sauce melting. Okay, you just keep doing a layering process. The mozzarella cheese, more noodles, then the rest of the sauce on top, and then you want to finish it off with sliced mozzarella cheese, and that will melt over the noodles and the sauce and make for a very tasty, hopefully, dish. Takes a little longer because I should have taken this out of the refrigerator earlier. It's easier to peel when it's room temperature. But that's okay. We'll get to it somehow. Just a few more, and then we'll be ready to put this baby in the oven and let it bake. We're going to first cover it with foil. I'll do that in just a second after I get this cheese on. And we'll bake it for about 20 minutes at 375. And then when it reaches 20 minutes, then we'll pull it out and take the foil off and put it back in to bake another 20 minutes. So here we go. We've got the cheese on top. Get a nice long piece of foil, aluminum foil. Going to fit over that, about like that. You want to get some vegetable oil and spray the side of the foil that's going to go on top of the lasagna. The reason you do that is so that the cheese doesn't stick to the foil. Because so many times when you don't do that, you're going to be pulling this aluminum foil off and you're going to have cheese on top of it. Piece kind of big, wasn't it? But the heck. Okay. Ooh, nice and hot, 375, ready to put in. And we'll come back in about 20 minutes and take this foil off and let it cook a little bit more. And then we will be done. Okay, our lasagna's been baking in the oven for about 20 minutes now. We're going to pull it out for a little bit. Take this layer of foil off. See how nicely that came off? And melting very nice. Baking quite well. We'll bake it in there another 15-20 minutes and it'll be ready. And we'll be back in a few minutes. We just took the lasagna out of the oven and baked another 15 minutes. It's ready. See how it's nice and bubbly. All the sauce is bubbling real nicely there. The cheese is melted and spread a little bit evenly over the noodles. So as tempting as it is to want to just jump in there and grab some, don't. Let it sit for about 15-20 minutes. Let it cool down a bit before you cut it, and we'll see what it looks like. Hey, welcome back. We decided not to cut into the lasagna last night. It was getting kind of late, and I knew if we cut into it, we will probably eat, and we don't need to be eating something that heavy so late at night. So we're going to cut a little bit today and have it for brunch before we leave for Austin. Kind of give you an idea how the layers look, and hopefully see how it works out. It's been in the refrigerator all night, so it's going to need to be heated. I don't want to heat the whole thing, since we're not going to eat much of it. We just want to get a slice here, and we'll heat that individually. See what if I can get this out. The first piece is always the hardest to get out. So there you go. See the layers, how nice and layered it is. It looks like it didn't quite cut deep enough, but it'll be okay. It's going to be edible. So we're going to heat this up and have a little bite before we leave for Austin. Okay, we got a little piece heated up. We're going to see how it tastes like. And one thing I want to caution you about is anytime you handle red sauce, spaghetti sauce, lasagna sauce, any kind of tomato sauce, don't wear white. What can you say? So I'm going to bite into this and see if it tastes okay. Hopefully it will. Hot. I think that's going to work. I think you'll enjoy this. Bon appetit.